Welcome back to APN TV Media, your author-publisher network. I'm Michelle Meyering, along with my best buddy, Bob Beatles. How you doing today, Bob?
Well, good, Michelle.
Hey.
How about you?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you for asking. I had a question for you. Why don't you do us a little fill-in on what's going on in the political environment, your political world? You know anything new you can fill us in on?
House Bill 610 has been introduced to take government funding away from the public schools and introduce a voucher system, which may be a real good idea in that, you know, the government really doesn't do anything well except where force is required, like a military court system, patent system, things like that. So it might work out well, but the changeover might be difficult because the people are getting funded by the government to change over to a voucher system.
Whoa.
We don't know how that's going to work.
I think there's going to be a little upset.
Oh, some people are going to be, if it passes, some people are going to be very upset. Some people are going to look at the future and say, hey, this is going to work out great eventually. But
Well, change doesn't always go over so well, does it?
not at all. Not at all.
You know, there's a lot of topics going out there in the political environment and everywhere else. In fact, our show today is author Stephen Bentley. And what he did was he wrote a book called Undercover. And it's the inside story of Operation Julie. Now, Operation Julie is possibly before a lot of your time. It was about the 1970s, and he was an undercover agent. And he went to help basically bust one of the biggest crime rings out there. And this was the time where it hits home. So the time cocaine, heroin, which upsets a lot of us in the environment now, but it was cocaine, heroin, and marijuana.
Well, LSD was what he was working on mainly, but then that tied into cocaine. Marijuana was big then, but heroin was not so big then. Now it is big. But in those days, it was LSD was the really big
70s,
one.
the hippie era.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
a lot of marijuana
Timothy
was going
Leary.
around. Yeah, Timothy Leary. Yep.
Right.
Well, he started pushing the LSD around 1960.
Yeah.
And then it really, there were people in Monroe would walk down the street with jars of liquid LSD before it became illegal.
Bob, I didn't know that much about you.
Yeah, I know.
You and your Kiss boots and your LSD. Wow, you got a lot to tell me, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Anyway, it's going to be an interesting show for you today. Too bad he didn't get rid of all of it and bust everyone, but his story actually has been numerous documentaries and screenplays have been existed just because of what he has. And he has the inside story. This was the man on the inside. So I'm really excited to talk to him today and learn a little bit about more your Timothy Leary hippie days.
Okay.
Right? All right, well, we'll be right back after this. Thank you for joining us again on APN TV Media. Bob Beatles and your host, Michelle Meyering. Glad you could join us. Bob, are you ready for the show today? We have Stephen here on Skype, so there may be a little delay, but actually he's in the Philippines right now, and I think we had some excellent connection. Excellent.
Oh, I think so too. Looked very good to me.
I have let's start, Stephen, with you telling us about the book. Now, Operation Julie, please explain that to our audience, because it's a peculiar name, but where did it come from?
Well, Operation Julie is and was still one of the world's largest drug busts. It was mainly acid, LSD orientated, and the name of the operation came from a policewoman called Julie, funnily enough, and she walked into an early briefing, and one of the bosses, one of the commanders said, okay, that's what we'll call the operation, Operation Julie, because Julie walked into the room. So that's how it all came to being.
Interesting.
Okay.
I can catch by your accent, you are British. Now, you were, like Bob said, you were an undercover agent, also a trial lawyer at one time, now retired. Tell the viewers a little bit how you got started, how you got into this, and how you got exposed to these type of situation.
Oh, that's the story of my life. I'll try and keep it short. I was a detective at a very young age. I was 21 when I was a detective in Liverpool, Merseyside, in the UK. And I was a kind of a normal detective, if you want to call it that, dealing with murder investigations, robberies, or assault and batteries. And then I transferred from Liverpool to Hampshire in 1970. And I ended up on the drug squad, and that's when I got drafted into Operation Julie, the undercover operation.
Now,
I came out of the police force in 1980, and then I did a variety of jobs. And in 1993, I retrained, went back to college, got a law degree, trained as a barrister, as we call them in the UK, trial attorney to you guys, and I ended up practicing criminal law as a trial attorney for 14 years till I finished that in 2011.
Is being a barrister anything like what was portrayed on Rumpole of the Bailey?
Yeah, at times. At times it is. We still wear those funny wigs and the gowns, and of course Rumpole of the Bailey is named after one of the most famous courts in England, which is the Old Bailey in London. The Central Criminal Court is its proper name. And I appeared there many times. And there is some truth in the Rumpole stories. I love those books and the TV series too.
Yeah. Now, I found, Stephen, reading your book, the events in your book. I mean, we can all kind of picture ourselves in an undercover situation, but what you experienced, and I would be nervous. I don't know if I could do it, be honest with you, and how you did, and how you were able to come back through and actually be a citizen and a member of society. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about what you were exposed to, what type of people, environment, and some of the characters in your book?
Okay. To be frank, when I first went undercover, I really didn't know what I was going to experience. It was all an unknown quantity. So the people I was mixing with, they were all heavy drug users and heavy drinkers. They were using marijuana, they were using cocaine, they were using LSD. You name it, they were using it. And most of them were all heavy drinkers too. I fitted into the heavy drinking side of things quite easily. As a young detective, there is or was a drinking culture in the police in the UK, and certainly was in my day. So I was used to having a few beers, more than a few beers. But the drugs was something new for me. And I had to make a decision. Do I refuse to use drugs, or, signal up, flag up that I could be a cop, or do I use drugs? So I used them. And so that was a whole new ball game for me.
Well, I can't see that they could take you seriously or not, or believe that you're not undercover in the lieu of what you're going through, that if you didn't participate in what they were doing, I mean, not that it was your decision.
Well, it's a bone of contention for me because, I understand the whole political correctness brigade. I've no room for bigots. I've no time for animosity in any sphere, whether it be work or religion or whatever. But, the PC brigade has gone too far. What I mean by that is that there is an undercover police inquiry going on now in London, in the UK. And the College of Policing in the UK has published a new rule book where undercover cops are forbidden to use drugs.
Wow.
On pain of disciplinary and criminal proceedings. And they do random drug tests. Well, I've got to be honest, that's a nonsense. How can you infiltrate? And I use the word infiltrate on purpose because a lot of people use the word undercover to denote buy and bust operation. There's a drug dealing problem on the street corner. So you get cops in plain clothes. They still have a badge. They still have a gun in your country. But they go in and they do a buy and bust operation. That is not deep undercover work. It is not infiltrating. I was infiltrating. I had a different character, a different personality, different identity. And the only way I could try and pretend I was somebody else is by using the same substances that they were using. And for the modern day policing to say, in the UK, to say, an undercover cop can't use drugs on pain of criminal prosecution. I'm sorry, it's a nonsense. It really is.
That is nonsense.
Anyway, that's one of my hobbies.
Yes.
Let's move on.
Political correctness here in the U.S. seems to be more of a way of shutting up anyone who has a libertarian or somewhat conservative point of view. What is going on over there seems like it is really dangerous. Telling that if a policeman who's undercover can't use drugs, he can't be undercover or infiltrate, like you said.
Well, that's right. There's I think what it is, you have to understand that there are, or I ask people to understand, if you want to fight organized crime, and I'm talking about using undercover operations to fight organized crime, I'm not talking about using buy and bust operations to sort out a little drug problem. There are other ways of doing that. But to fight organized crime, you have to get cops going deep undercover, and you have to give them a certain leeway. The libertarian, and I consider myself to be a libertarian. I consider myself to be a free thinker and a very open-minded person. But if you have a problem, whether it be drugs or whether it be terrorism or what have you, then you have to give undercover operatives, undercover officers a certain leeway without fear of being prosecuted or what have you.
I definitely see your reasoning in that. In fact, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, I want you to cover real quick a few of the top characters, and then I have a lot more questions for you concerning America's involvement and exactly where this happened, and a little bit of history on the political arena. So with that, Bob, we'll be right back after this.
Okay, sure.
turned against this. They have not done it.
Oh my God.
There has been...
Data transfer complete.
All right.
I have seen.
Welcome back to APN TV Media, your author publisher network. I'm Michelle Meyering, along with Bob Beatles. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Michelle.
We have a really good show today.
Yes.
Stephen Bentley, Undercover. Actually, it's the story of when he was Operation Julie and he was an undercover agent. Stephen, thank you for joining us on Skype today.
My pleasure.
I wanted you to cover for our audience a little bit, a few of the characters. Of course, you're the main character. It is your memoir. I mean, you're number one here. But there was another really huge character that played a really great role, and it sounded like in the end of the book that you still have contact with him or are able to talk to him, and his name was Smiles.
Correct. Yeah, Smiles. Yeah. I still have contact with him. Smiles was a character in my book. He was the main drug dealer, a very important drug dealer in the whole distribution network. And one of my briefs was to get as close as possible to Smiles, which I did. And my undercover buddy, Eric, he even babysat one night for Smiles and his wife. I went off to a restaurant with Smiles and took a few hits of marijuana and took a bit of cocaine and had a lot of drink. And, we had a great night, and I got very close to Smiles over the course of about 9 months. And I got very close to the guy. I really liked it. Okay, he was a drug dealer and lawbreaker, but it doesn't make him per se a bad guy in my book. I really enjoyed his company.
Is that
anyway?
Was that a difficult battle with you, spending so much time with a person and befriending them in a way, but knowing that ultimately you're their demise? I mean, your goal was to actually be lying to him. As you're forming a friendship, you're actually lying to his face and every day.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I got closer and closer to him. Spent many occasions in his home, and really got closer. I felt he was a good buddy of mine. And when he was eventually busted, I went to see him in the police cell after being busted. He looked at me. I was still had the long hair, and believe it or not, in those days I did have hair and long hair. The beard had gone, but I still had the droopy mustache. He knew me as a cop killer because of an incident that happened. He also knew me as a cocaine dealer. He was trying to score big quantities of cocaine from me. So he looks at me in the police cell thinking, dude, what the hell are you doing? You have nothing to do with acid, you have nothing to do with LSD. Anyway, then the penny dropped, and we hugged. And he said to me, no hard feelings, man. And, I've got to tell you, tears came to my eyes. I felt as if I'd betrayed the guy. I don't say this lightly. I did have a brother who died at too young an age, and was very close to my brother. The Smiles was like a brother to me. I felt that close to him. So yeah, it was tough. I felt feelings of betrayal, feelings of guilt. It wasn't easy to deal with at all.
Yeah, it's a heck of a thing. Now, Eric was your partner. I take it. That's.
He was. Eric Wright was my undercover partner, and we were chalk and cheese. He was the straight guy, if you want, and I don't know. I think I was a little wild, crazy.
A lot of us were, right? Our youth. Now,
Yeah.
Dick Lee. Now,
Yeah.
he's another character in the book, but he doesn't really have to do with the infiltration process as much as the day-to-day action, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, when I say I was the wild and crazy one, I have to tell you, and I have to tell potential readers of the book that, my undercover name was Steve Jackson, and I preferred being, for a long time, I preferred being Steve Jackson to Steve Bentley. I was comfortable in the skin of Steve Jackson. A drug dealer, a boy about town. I loved it. No responsibilities. I just enjoyed it. It was a fantastic time with it. But it had its impact on it.
Now,
But there we are.
over there, I would think that people might identify your last name Bentley with that beautiful automobile too.
Yeah, I wish. It's kind of weird how many Americans say the same thing to me. I remember crossing the border from Ontario, Canada, into New York State, and immigration guy said the same thing. Hey, are you connected to the Bentley motor car people? And my answer was the same. I wish.
Yeah, well, yeah, you'd be a lot wealthier, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Steven, we got to do a
Yes.
quick break, and we're going to come right back to you, okay? We're going to get a little bit into politics.
Okay, that's not a problem.
All right, we'll be right back in a few.
Okay.
I was wondering, Stephen, now in the United States today, we have a huge heroin problem that was caused here by pharmaceutical companies putting out drugs like oxycodone and Percocet and telling the doctors that they were not habit forming when in fact they were very addictive drugs, and they are very addictive. And then people discover that heroin is much cheaper, so they get addicted to heroin. Do you have the same problem over there in the UK, or?
We do have the same problem. It's not called oxycodone in the UK. It's probably the same thing. It's a substitute. The idea is it's supposed to wean you off heroin,
Right.
but actually the addicts get more used to the substitute than heroin itself. But then they start dealing in the substitutes, and but it doesn't wean them away from heroin. Heroin is, the worst drugs are the ones of real addiction: heroin, crack cocaine, methamphetamine.
Oh yes.
Called ice in some countries, called shabu here, where I am at the moment in the Philippines, and they're the worst type of drugs. And, the problem needs a different approach than the approach that's been adopted over the last 30, 40, 50 years.
I'd love to hear your recommendation.
It needs some fresh thinking about it.
Do you have any ideas?
Well, I do. I do. I'm a little bit reluctant to tell you guys in the United States what you ought to do. It's easier for me to relate it to Europe. Now, if you take Europe as an example, Portugal has gone down the decriminalization, and it works in Portugal. What they do is they treat the real drugs of addiction, let's use heroin as an example, they treat it as a health problem. So in other words, if you're a heroin user, you don't automatically go in front of a criminal court, be criminalized. You go through the health system, and you're treated for your health problem. And I think that's the right way to go. If you're found with heroin, they weigh it. If it's above a certain amount, then you go down the criminal prosecution route, or route as you would say, because you're deemed to be a trafficker. They still prosecute traffickers, but what they don't do is they don't criminalize and prosecute the user who, in my opinion, has a health problem. Nobody wants to end up as a heroin addict. It's a terrible thing. They steal from their mothers, they steal from their grandmothers, they become whores, they become really bad people and a total drain on society and cause so many problems with crime. So we need to have a different approach to it, in my opinion. The war on drugs, as so-called war, isn't working. We need to have a rethink.
Decriminalization does sound like a good idea. I think that would work here as well as it works over there.
It's a hard step to take, though, because I can see the other viewpoint on, well, let's just get rid of it all. But it's such a plethora out there that can we ever get rid of all the drugs out there?
Well, I think that's the first issue, Michelle. I don't think you can get rid of it. People from time immemorial have always taken some kind of substance as a high. You're never going to stop that. The thing that you need to control as a society is you don't want kids open to it. You don't want kids attracted to it. It shouldn't be available to kids. Nobody in their right mind ever disagrees with that.
Right.
But as an individual adult person, surely the state can only, or government can only interfere so much. if somebody wants to, and you know, people will think I'm crazy or whatever. I don't care. But, you know, if somebody wants to drop an acid tab, you know, and they're 30, 35, 25, 45 years of age, and they want to try it, why not? You know, because I'm not advocating LSD or acid or any drug for that matter. But, you know, adults should be allowed to try certain things, and if they so wish, as long as they're of sound mind. And it's like the cannabis debate at the minute, you know, marijuana debate. I think it's now scientifically recognized that marijuana can be a good thing for people with certain kinds of illnesses and so on and so forth. And certain states have legalized it. Certain provinces in Canada have legalized it, so on and so forth. You know, we need to progress with the whole discussion. We need to have a sensible, grown-up discussion about drugs and get away from the drugs are bad, period, argument.
Mm-hmm. Well,
you know, they're not necessarily good, and I'm not advocating their use, but we need to have a grown-up adult argument about it. You know, let's be honest, there used to be a flat earth society hundreds and hundreds of years ago. You know, the first mariners in the world, the first adventurers, they used to be fearful of approaching the horizon when they were on the ships, you know, in case they fell off the edge of the earth. You know, and then all of a sudden people went, oh, hang on, there is no edge. You know, it's a globe. You know, so we need, you know, the people who said back then, you know, it isn't flat, it's a globe, they were considered to be heretics. So people like me and others who are advocating a fresh approach to the hackneyed, doesn't work, very expensive war on drugs approach, you know, we need to have more people join in the debate and forget your prejudices. And open your mind, do some reading, do some research, open your mind, and let's have a debate about it, an adult debate about which way we should go forward. I don't have all the answers. I wish I did.
Right. It's refreshing, though, to have a open-minded argument about it, though. I mean, and I agree with you. But not to change subjects, but when you went through this undercover experience, it was in Great Britain area. Was there any ties to America, or was there any involvement on our end to what you were going through, what you experienced?
Yeah, sure, big time. The scariest experience I had when I was undercover was when I met a Canadian guy but he was based in Miami, and he was connected to Bolivians. Pure Bolivian cocaine, and he wanted to import it through into the UK, and he wanted me to be the man, and I sort of went through that, and that was kind of a sideshow to Operation Julie and the LSD. So, you know, he was connected to Miami, but also the LSD thing was connected. We had great involvement with DEA. The DEA office in London gave us great assistance. And of course, the main LSD chemist, Richard Kemp, he was connected all the way back to Timothy Leary and the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, the West Coast motorcycle gangs and all the rest of it. Yes. Because he was producing acid in Paris, which was being shipped over to California, the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, because of his American connections. David Solomon, Paul Onaboldi, a couple of other names I've forgotten. And it was all deeply interconnected with Operation Bell, where the DEA closed down an acid lab in Belgium. So there was a lot of connections to the United States and the DEA and and the whole early acid scene. And Richard Kemp really took over from one of the folklore legends of the whole acid scene on the West Coast, was a man called Owsley. Anybody who's familiar with the LSD scene, the acid scene, will know that name. Richard Kemp is spoken of in the same tones as Owsley, as making the best LSD, the purest LSD that's ever been known to man. So yeah, there were plenty of connections all the way back to Timothy Leary, Ken Casey, the whole crew, right. The whole Millbrook crew.
And you know, you're talking about the legality or illegality of drugs, and a lot of that has to do with just who can get a politician to do what they want him to do. Give you a great example was Prohibition, where alcohol was made illegal in this country. The biggest financial backer of Prohibition was John D. Rockefeller, the head of Standard Oil. And the reason he wanted it put in place is because Henry Ford made his first cars, so they ran on either alcohol or gasoline. So once it became illegal to produce alcohol, Big Oil's major competitor was pushed right out the door. And a lot of these laws, are like that.
Well, prohibition in the 1920s in the United States didn't work.
No.
It drove alcohol and the production of alcohol into the hands of organized crime. We all know that.
Yes.
We've read the books. We've seen the movies. We all know that. And it's the same with drugs. A lot of illegal drugs, because they're illegal, they fall into the hands of organized crime and violence, organized criminals. And that's part of the argument for saying, let's have a fresh look at it all, see if we can, as a society and the world in general, do a better job. Half the problem, it is political, and it gets very complicated because we're all signatories. When I say we're all, the United States and the United Kingdom are signatories to, and the European Union, are all signatories to a United Nations protocol, which prohibits certain drugs and says what should happen. And because we're all signatories, we have to kind of follow all that, because the United Nations is a good thing in general, But what it needs is I don't know whether it should be public-led or politically led, but it needs somebody to lead some kind of argument, debate about all this.
Picture a girl who could tear your whole world at the seams. Get a glimpse in her eyes and you've realized all of your dreams. She's sweet as strawberry pie, but then she'll make you wanna cry. But it's innocence that she reveals when you just look and see. She's from heaven above. She's your flesh and blood. Just why everything's changed so soon. 'Cause nothing compares to the way that she lights up the room. You've thrown away all of the things that you thought joy would bring, and nothing else matters as much anymore to you. that she'd figured her out, think again. 'Cause every day she's a bit older and wiser than. She tells you the way you should go, things that you already know. It's simply profound but astoundingly brand new again. She's your flesh and blood. She's from heaven above. She's so easy to love. She's your flesh and blood. Whoa, whoa, yeah.
But you know the trouble is, there's no votes in it. There are no votes in saying legalize drugs. There are and I'm not saying that is necessarily the answer, but there are no votes in saying certain things about drugs. That's one of the problems. You know, you're not going to get politicians being honest and open about certain things if there are no votes in it. It's like the gasoline problem, the oil problem. You know, are you guys going to vote for $10 a litre or a gallon or whatever? Of course you're not. You know,
Yeah.
you know, so the politicians have to keep you all happy and keep me happy and keep everybody. Who would be a politician? Not for me, thank you.
Stephen, you have a lot of interesting viewpoints, and I thank you for sharing them. I want to touch a little base, though. Now, you as an author, this is your first-time book, and of course, it's a memoir. What actually inspired you to write this?
Well, the first correction, it's not actually a first-time book. I did write it's available on Amazon as an ebook. I wrote about my driving experiences when I first arrived in the Philippines. I was horrified about it was a road culture shock. What's happening? You know, nobody follows the rules, red light, people just go through, you know. So I wrote a book about that. That was the first thing I did. That was kind of a pilot, a test thing to see how Amazon worked and formatting and all this. So yeah, so then I wrote my memoir, which had been a book in my head for, oh my goodness, 30 something years it had been in my head. Started it, stopped it, didn't feel I was ready to complete it. So yeah, I eventually got round to writing the book, and it's been quite a journey.
Yes.
I've learned an awful lot about not only writing but also publishing too, and I'm actually mentoring one or two people to try and help them with the initial difficulties and hurdles in getting published.
Interesting.
Before driving in the Philippines, did you ever drive on the Autobahn?
Did I ever drive on the Autobahn in Germany?
Yes.
Yes, I have. I have. When I was a trial attorney, I used to defend British soldiers in Germany quite often, and I used to drive on the autobahn many times. Fantastic system. And there are misnomers about the autobahn where people think you can do 150 miles an hour. Yes, you can in certain places, but it's also well regulated, and there are cops everywhere and cameras everywhere. So and when the rain comes down, the lights flash up, and you have to slow down. And if you don't slow down, you end up with a ticket. It's
It sounds like a book all in itself right
system.
there. I have a couple quick questions for you because we are running out of time. One,
Okay.
Are you an outliner or a pantster?
I am a plotter. I am definitely not a penster. I'm writing my first novel at the minute, and I have the whole storyboard up with scenes and all.
Oh, good. You're organized. I was wondering what you were teaching, who you were mentoring, what you were telling them. And what I really like for you to cover, do you have any advice for our young writers out there?
Yeah, just get it down on paper. Don't worry about how good or how poor you think it is. As writers, we all have days where you think, oh my goodness, that's garbage. Everybody goes through that. Just write it. Just get your thoughts down. Just get your feelings down. Get your emotions down on paper. Worry about all the other stuff later. That's the best advice I can give anybody. People are too scared to get it down on paper. And just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Get on with it.
That's the best advice I've ever heard.
That does sound like great advice.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I very much appreciate you being on the show.
I've appreciated being with you guys.
And it's been very entertaining. You brought a lot of interesting viewpoints and political views actually onto the show. And I thank you once again.
I'll probably get arrested after the show for my viewpoint.
Oh, well, we'll be on your side. We'll vouch for you. Absolutely. Well, I thank you, and we will talk to you soon, and good luck on your future work and your writings. Okay?
Yes, thank you. When the novel is published.
Okay, let us know.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, very good. So on that note.
Take care, guys.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye now.
Bye.
All right. Well, we'll be right back after this.
You ever had a dream where you just want so much for yourself, but you don't know how to get there because you don't have many options, but you do anything for your loved ones, your mom, your dad, family members, to the point you don't even know how to get there. You just know the ending result, but you don't even know the middle of how it's going to all happen. And you have to deal with waking up and not having stuff to aspire to, seeing boarded up homes and shattered dreams, and kids not even wanting to play outside. It's like my dad had the American dream of owning a home, which he did. In my small town of New York City, everyone has dreams, but too many are too scared to chase them. I don't want to focus on what society tells me I can and will be. I want to be so naive that dreaming is like anything that my mind creates, it can happen. I want to be fearless in chasing any goal I set my mind to. I want to catch anything that I feel like I deserve that I feel that's owed to me for my diligence of hard work and being patient and always being at the moment. I feel like I'm always at the right place at the right time. Even my environment now, I know it's all for a reason. It's for me to inspire somebody to say they can do this and they can do that. To go after what you feel like you deserve. That's what I want to live for. And when I die, that's what I want to stand for. That's what I want my legacy to be. Is to be a dreamer. A dreamer of the boy who caught 22.
Joining us today on APN TV Media, your author publisher network. Excellent show today, Bob.
Yes, he was excellent. Stephen was really good.
Yes, and the political insight that he brought to the, I'm sure you love that. That was all you.
Oh, well, thank you.
That was all you. Yes, Stephen Bentley, Undercover. It's the Operation Julie. It's the untold story. It's worth a read. It's very good. And the war on drugs, I don't know. We can only pray.
That's it.
That we come out on top.
You're right.
Thank you for joining us again, and we hope to see you next time. Bye now.
There's a place inside my mind unseen, dreams of you and I that just can't be. But I can keep them safe and locked away inside. In a perfect world where I control it, you give me your heart there and I would hold it. But I know that just can't be reality. But please, don't you wake my daydream, 'cause it's so real it seems. Maybe someday I'll get my head from the clouds, but for now I'll just daydream. If you said to jump, then I will do it. Right into the fire and walk straight through it. And if you knew, I bet that's just what you would say. I guess the only thing for me to do is never let you know just how I'm feeling, 'cause I don't want to know if you don't feel the same. It's a shame. Don't you wake my daydream, 'cause it's so real it seems. Maybe someday I'll get my head from the clouds, but for now I'll just daydream. 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 There's a place inside my mind but I can keep them safe and locked away inside. But don't you wake my daydream. Oh, so real it seems. Maybe someday I'll get my head from the clouds, but for now I'll just daydream. Don't you wake my daydream.